Loungin, son.
Welcome back to another episode of Loungin, the show where we talk about kind of random topics related to comics.
So his name's Ryan and I'm Mario.
We're switching places today.
Yeah, so we're gonna be two different people today. But it wouldn't really work because you don't love DC. So
No, because Marvel's better, obviously.
that's neither here nor
Really?
there.
No,
That's
we
an
got
opinion.
this little character called SpiderMan, which is what we're talking about today.
We're gonna talk about Spider-Man. We're gonna talk about our favorite, what we think are essential Spider-Man reads.
Yeah, I mean, obviously this is gonna vary depending on who you ask. There's obviously older stuff.
Yeah, this is just our opinion. We talked about it beforehand, and we both agreed on the books. I mean, it wasn't like we had to.
And it is going to be more modern stuff too, just to let everybody know, because I know some people love some of the older stuff.
Yeah, I mean, we'll throw an honorable mention at the end.
But yeah, that's stuff I think we're talking about is more modern. I mean, it's just different.
Yeah,
some of that stuff is. I know it's classic, and I know people like it, but it is harder to read. It's a little bit outdated.
Yeah, because we're judging it not just based on art, not just based on writing. This is the whole package, right? This is going to be something that, like, you'll want to read over and over again. You'll revisit it, you know, like, each one of these is fantastic. So
some of them are a little depressing. I mean, you got, like, SpiderMan Blue. It's probably the first one I'd bring up. I think it's...
All right.
I would hope it's one of the first ones that comes to mind when people think about Spider-Man.
That's the first thing. When people come in the shop, it's the first thing that comes to mind, and then it's the first thing I can't give to them because it's not in print. Which sucks.
Yeah, it's great. It's a pretty damn awesome book. It is a little depressing when you kind of see what it's framed around.
But let's say who does the book. Jeff Loeb writes. Tim Sales on art.
So it's one of the kind of the color books. What is the color books?
It's one of the color books. It's just to let you know, when we say color books, they did a series of books at Marvel. SpiderMan Blue, Daredevil Yellow, Hulk Gray, and Captain America White,
which is the last one to come out. And then Superman for All Seasons is kind of considered like an honorary colored book because that's kind of the same ilk.
Well, I mean, so is Long Halloween Dark Victory. It's the same creative team, and you have the same vibes from the books and the same, like, energy, I guess you could say. It just gives you that same feeling, right?
Yeah,
because it has a nostalgic
feel. It's a more of a classic approach to the characters. They're usually pretty serious too, as far as like with the thematically what's about.
It's not jokey at all.
No, and like the color kind of represents also what the tone is about it. Like Captain America White, the hope he's Captain America. This one's Spider-Man Blue because it's kind of dealing with his depression. Yeah. And some of the guilt because it's centered around this idea that he's kind of like remembering Gwen Stacy. And I love when you get to the end where you find out he's kind of making these recordings to Gwen.
Right, he's reminiscing about, and so this takes place when he's still in high school.
Yeah.
Like, or he's reminiscing about his time in high school.
Yeah.
But it's fantastic, dude. I think Tim Sale illustrates one of my favorite Spider-Man too. Like, I wouldn't have pictured him as a good Spider-Man artist after reading the Batman books. Yeah. But he did a fantastic job.
It's great.
He does a great job of really setting the time period. You know, like the clothing, everything.
It's more of a throwback, even though the books. I mean, now it's been a while, but it's not from like the 60s and 70s. It's more of a modern book, but it's clearly referencing the designs from back in those days. And so you look at the character designs and the clothes they're wearing. It's more of a throwback to 60s and
So
70s.
even though it is a more modern book, it's if you want that classic feel, this is the book for you. This is the book that you should seek out, even if you have to hit up eBay. Maybe
there's the collections. There's a color collection. There's two of them. There's the original collection that had just the four before
three.
Was it just the three?
It was the three. It was Hulk, Spider-Man,
before
Daredevil.
Captain America White got finished, because that came out with issue 0 like fucking 10 years ago, and then it didn't come out until a few years ago. There was another reissue of that same collection that has all of them now. Mm-hmm. So I don't imagine that's hard to find.
No, I mean like I said, eBay if you can't find it at your shop because it's not in print, so you will have to seek it out.
But the collected one, if you want to get all the other ones, Daredevil Yellow and Hulk Gray.
And then another book that is a personal favorite of mine is Ultimate Spider-Man run. And then when I say it, the run, I mean like the entire run that Bendis does. Mark Bagley's the artist for basically the entire run. I think it's relaunched a couple times. It's like Ultimate Spider-Man Comics and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean that was in 2000. That was when Marvel was kind of like they were getting out of bankruptcy and they were doing some like different shit. Marvel Knights was successful.
They were coming up from Marvel Knights, and that's kind of where they were just trying to go full steam ahead.
Right. So they basically what Ultimate Spider-Man, the Ultimate Universe, was reimagining Marvel characters set in the new millennium. So you don't even see Peter in costume. For a few issues. Uncle Ben is even alive for like I think the first like 5 issues or so, right? And it's just a really great take on Spider-Man. Bendis at his peak, I think. Like, the dialogue is snappy, it's energetic, like the whole package, dude, and like even the reimaginings of some of the characters, I really enjoyed.
The Ultimate line was an opportunity too for people to see, because like with Spider-Man, by the time you get to the 80s, he's an adult and he's married and he's got a job, and so he's clearly not the high school kid anymore. So this is an opportunity to have him be in high school again,
right,
and deal with the high school drama. Because some people like the younger one, some people like the older one.
Yeah.
So this is an opportunity to have a modern day Spider-Man that you can go back and read that was in high school. And it went on for a long time.
It did, because I don't think they even thought it would be as successful as it was.
No, I don't think they did either. It was one of the first. It was the book that started off the Ultimate line back in 2000. There was a bunch of other X-Men and a bunch of other Fantastic Four. But I think, that's the only one that survived the whole period. That's the only one that was consistently like.
That's the only one I can look back at completely fondly of the entire run.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like, the other ones were good, right? The Ultimate X-Men was good.
Mark Millar, had a bunch of different ones, the Ultimates and things like that.
Yeah,
but they were all shorter. They never had the original creators the whole period. This is Bendis the entire time.
And let's just say this: it's the longest consecutive run for a writer on a Spider-Man comic book. He beat Stan Lee's record, or him and Mark Bagley beat Stan's record.
That's awesome.
So that's pretty cool. Which leads us into another Ultimate book.
Yeah, Ultimate Miles Morales, which is what followed the same. It came out of the same book.
Right.
Eventually, he got relaunched also into his own. They also rebranded it. It was like Ultimate Spider-Man Miles Morales or something like that.
I think
something like that. It got rebranded a couple times.
It did later, but in the beginning it was Ultimate Spider-Man.
Yeah, and
after Ultimate Fallout,
in the beginning it was just like the same book, just continued forward with Miles, but then eventually they get relaunched as like Ultimate Comic Spider.
Yeah, I know.
Miles.
I hated when they started renaming them all these different adjectives.
I love Miles. I think he's great.
Miles is
one of the best additions to the Marvel Universe as far as he's also in like the Spider-Verse movie now too, but one of the best additions to the Marvel Universe, I think, in the last 15 years, 20 years.
Completely agree. And he's and it's like, instead of like doing diversity for the sake of it, like you had a African American and Puerto Rican biracial dude, and like and just like proving like anybody can be Spider-Man. So you're able to like bring in more people where it's, you know what I mean, like, because Spider-Man is that character where anybody can picture themselves in that costume, and this was another aspect of that, which they talk about in the movie.
It was really well done, I think, because it spun out of Peter. Peter was still alive when Miles was kind of introduced,
and it felt natural.
And then he had to deal with the fact that Peter died, and now he had the hold of the mantle.
Yeah,
and that was the whole thing. You had Nick Fury want to kind of take him under his wing because he never really helped out Peter the way he wanted to. Even Captain America felt guilty for not really helping out Peter, and so I like the way the book Ultimate Job did a really good job of like making it a natural introduction, a natural progression, and then natural elevation to having him be a full-blown Spider-Man.
Yeah,
where he didn't feel like Spider-Man Jr.
He's his own character.
He was a rookie. He was figuring out, but eventually he leads into just being Spider-Man.
Yeah, and he continues to have a huge presence in the Marvel Universe. Now he's not even in the Ultimate Universe anymore. He's in the main 616 is the main Marvel Universe for all you nerds. We're really fucking nerdy over here. But yeah, I love Miles Morales. I think he's one of the greatest additions that Bendis brought to Marvel.
Yeah.
Besides like Jessica Jones, I love Jessica Jones as well. Awesome. But that that's another topic. But
yeah, but also the entire Ultimate Spider-Man is super long because it's 10 years of Peter,
right?
And then you go into Miles for a few more years, and then another relaunch, and then Miles comes into the 616. But it's still Bendis at first too.
Oh, I know.
616 when he comes over.
Oh, I know. Bendis. I mean,
he was on that book for 14 years or something like that.
Some insane number for sure. And Miles still has his own ongoing, but I definitely recommend we recommend you checking out the Bendis stuff first.
It's more heartfelt. There's some, I don't want to spoil everything, but there's some stuff with his mom, and there's some stuff like the version of Venom from the Ultimate version is different, and I think it's pretty emotional what happens to him, and even the stuff with his uncle. Like his uncle also dies.
Yeah,
there's a very
there's so much
version of how that works out. I think it's even more tragic because it's not as clean cut of Uncle Ben's a nice guy that helps out.
It's a different version of it. So
definitely check it out.
Definitely check it out. Next book up on our list is another modern story. It's only like a year old, I think. Mm-hmm. Spider-Man Life Story by Chip Zdarsky and Mark Bagley, who we were just talking about was on the Ultimate
line. Yeah,
he's been a Spidey artist for decades.
I mean, he was looking at that Batman Spider-Man book, and he was on that one.
Yeah, so like he was back in the days of like Clone Saga and fucking Carnage. He's technically co-creator of Carnage because he was the artist on Amazing Spider-Man when that took place. It's a beautiful story. It's also got its moments where it can be. It's very serious. It's not really jokey. It has its moments of being jokey.
So the premise of the book, for anyone that doesn't know, it's Spider-Man if he actually aged in real time.
Right. So each issue, it's a 6-issue series. Each issue is a different decade. So you got the 60s, 70s, and so on. So,
and then by the time you get to the 4th book, he's old. Like he's starting to get up there, and it talks about how he deals with that. And you also get to see, but the rest of the characters age too. So Captain America isn't just magically always young, and like the other characters aren't also magically young. So you see where they go. Where does Tony go if he got older?
Mm-hmm. Then also we see different events play out differently because
like Steve has to deal with the war, and like you see him react to current events in America and how like Steve Rogers, Captain America, would react to them. And
it was just very well done. And Zdarsky another testament to his strength as a writer because he's also an artist.
He's one of the most surprising writers to come out in the last few years because he at first he was known for becoming kind of jokey, and he ended up being like an exceptional writer at being more serious because This book isn't funny. Like it's not really that. A couple of moments of levity, but it's not really funny. It's pretty serious as far as the stuff he's dealing with. So
so that's definitely. I think it's going to be a perennial. I think it'll be a Spidey story that people point to when they're recommending Spidey stories. I mean, it's still kind of fresh in people's minds, but it's definitely a story you guys all should check out. And last up,
we talked about JMS, J. Michael Straczynski. He started on Spider-Man in the early 2000s, but I think it's notable because he started a lot of the things that ended up being huge mainstays in the Dan Slott run, which I mean, we're not huge fans of that run.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people are fans of it, but a lot of the stuff that because he did the Spider-Verse stuff.
Well, he did Moreland. Which Moreland is like his family, the Immortals, like they're the ones that like the Spider Totem and all that stuff
that was played into Spider-Verse that was all about the different like totems and all the like it's kind of like Immortal Iron Fist a little bit. All that stuff was set up with JMS's run like years before that, and so that's why I think it's notable. And I think it's also the last time where a certain person's art was still pretty good.
Well, I mean,
it was better.
That's subjective, but I mean, because his Black Panther was good too. We're talking about Romita Jr.
Yeah,
I'm not trying to throw too much shade at his way, but I have to say, we're talking about JMS's run. You cannot forget Amazing Spider-Man 36, the 9/11 issue.
Oh yeah,
that black cover. I mean, I remember that was my 9th grade year of high school. I just started high school, and fucking 4 days later, 9/11 happens. So that was a horrible time for this country. And that issue was so powerful. Even at a young age, like I was still able to seeing Dr. Doom cry.
Which gets made fun of a lot, though.
It gets made fun of. I don't care. You know what I mean? Like the point of the book was to convey that like even the darkest of hearts can be touched by something so horrendous. And seeing like help and like. The question of like where were you? You know what I mean? Where were the heroes? It was like there was so much going on in that small issue, and it was powerful image after powerful image. So I can't talk about JMS's run without talking about that. But yeah, he went on to write. There's some stuff towards the end of his run that I cannot fucking stand. I don't want to spoil anything for anybody that hasn't read it, but it for the most part it is a very good run in modern day Spider-Man comics.
I think it started the modern day as far as because at the same time this is only like a year or a few months after Ultimate Spider-Man started,
right?
So they were going at the same time. But as far as Amazing Spider-Man in the 616 main universe, this is where the modern day Spider-Man was created,
right? And I think it was the last Amazing Spider-Man run that I can point to that I liked.
Yeah, and I'm being honest. I think it's editorial more than anything because at the end of even JMS's run, it started to get kind of nuts, and you were like, "What?"
Yeah, it just didn't feel like his run anymore. But yeah, those are our Spider-Man picks. I'll throw an honorable mention out there. Yeah. McFarlane's Spider-Man series. I mean, you can't really talk about Spidey and then not. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it sold millions of copies.
The regular.
I'm talking about his regular.
Yeah.
The one where he created Venom, obviously
Amazing Spider-Man.
That is also, a pretty fun run. I mean, it's fun. It's not like the best storytelling, but his Spider-Man run. I mean, what he did with Spidey was so experimental with the webbing, the spaghetti webbing, the eyes really big, the posing,
expressive eyes, and like the anatomy that was exaggerated, and the swinging around that was exaggerated. Like it wasn't natural. Like if you really think about it, like nobody
can bend that fucking way. Yeah,
but it looked fucking awesome.
Yeah, so that's a fun run to like seek out. It's just it's cool, you know.
There's omnibuses of all the.
That's
Todd
just all
stuff.
collected. Yeah, that's pretty easy to find.
It's literally just labeled like Todd McFarlane, even though there's writers involved. Like nothing.
Yeah, they just ignore everybody else. there's legit like writers that have been in the industry for decades, and they just get ignored.
No, it's Todd. It's Todd.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's our Spidey picks.
Yeah.
If you guys have any picks that you think we should have added to this, again, like this is just our opinion. This is what we think are essential Spider-Man reads. But throw yours in the comments below. You can also email us.
Yeah.
Your suggestions. Also, if you want to see us do more lists like this, at thecomicloungepod@gmail.com. You can follow us Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at The Comic Lounge. And make sure you hit that subscribe button so
we're posting videos like pretty much every day of the week.
I think it's almost every day now. Yeah. So
interviews, all kinds of stuff. So just check it out.
Yeah. And on that note,
we're out.